the meeting was going forward as a private viewing for some reason. So give me just a second. Okay, we're good to go. Thanks for the waiting.
Sure. So we have Andres Manteo with us from BDS Planning and Urban Design again this afternoon. He came to the commission at the meeting last month and presented the draft strategic plan, took the commission's feedback and made some slight adjustments to that plan. So he's back with us today to kind of go over the final draft for commission consideration for adoption. So Andres, so we'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Trina. Good to see you all again. You should have, I believe, a copy of the final strategic plan in front of you for your reference, but I'll go ahead and share my screen here. We, at the last meeting, had a robust conversation around some edits, specifically as it relates to how we were describing some of the major moves, and hearing from certain commissioners around really wanting to emphasize a focus around storytelling and around communications and around how you are interacting not just with stakeholders, but with your customers and residents and citizens of McMinnville. And so we took those edits or those suggestions and made edits into the plan. I right now will focus on those edits and how they're shown, and then I'll just open up any further questions and conversation for any comments you have on the strategic plan. We, just as a matter of introduction, as I scroll down here, have focused have written this intro, working with Trina, intro to the citizens of McMinnville, from you, John, there, and then have some acknowledgements of yourselves as the commissioners, and then the staff contributors that went through the process in the working groups. We really highlighted the mission and the core values of the utility. And then here's where I want to pause. And we added a kind of third major move, which is to increase and evolve customer and stakeholder engagement to effectively communicate McMinnville Water and Light's extensive history and vision for the future. And so, again, adding a third major move, which is one is kind of clarifying and further developing the role and responsibilities with the city of McMinnville. The completion of the major electric facility and water capital projects is the second major move. And then this one around increasing and evolving customer and stakeholder engagement. So so that edit was made. I'll pause there and see if folks have any questions related to that.
Not seeing any.
Okay. And then in the key metrics, we also reflected the same edit in key metrics number 4, which is maintaining a communications plan with major stakeholders, updating commission on community engagements and stakeholder meetings. That was a comment that was made at the last meeting, and so that's reflected here. We also had a conversation around reporting the commission efforts on defining barriers around workforce recruitment and some of the succession planning and recruitment of the workforce on board. And then just the layout is the only thing else that has changed. We made sure to wanting to have a kind of plan on a page, so that if you just needed to show one page, you would understand all the strategic plan, the strategic priorities, the goals, and the objectives in short order. And so you see that here on this page. And then really going into detail in terms of what some of the objectives are. And with that, I'll pause and see if you have any additional questions or comments on the plan as a whole. And if not, I'll just I'll turn it, I guess, back over to you to see if you have any official business around this.
Questions, comments? Good.
Well, I guess I have a comment. Andres, I really appreciate what you and your team have done. I think it was very effective. I felt listened to. I believe the rest of the commission did. It looked to me like you did very well with the mayor, and that you and the mayor and your team put together a major accomplishment here. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. It's been an exciting and pleasure. I mean, it's been a pleasure as a project to work with you all individually and as an organization and with the staff and with the commission. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the tremendous work on this. I second that it feels very reflective of the work that was produced by not only this body, but the team here at large. And at this point, not hearing any other conversation, I would ask for a motion to adopt resolution. It's what number is it? 2023-3. 2023-3, adopting the 5-year strategic plan as presented by BDS Planning and Urban Design.
So moved.
I-
I'll second.
A motion from Commissioner Tate and a second from Commissioner Christensen. And then Claudia, would you like to poll the council or the commission? Pardon me, Trina? Wow, I doubled down on that one. Sorry. Trina, would you like to poll the commission?
Sure. Mayor Dropkin,
Aye.
Commissioner Tankersley,
Aye.
Commissioner Gormley,
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Tate.
Aye. Wonderful. And the motion or the resolution is adopted unanimously. Thank you very much. And thank you again for BDS Planning. It's been really wonderful working with your team.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good evening. We'll now invite Finance Director Mark Dunmeyer to join us to talk about, to introduce the topic of our 23-24 insurance renewal.
Members of the commission. Ryan Hartzell and Gary Eastland join us at the table here. So you all know Gary, right? And I think probably most of you all know Ryan as well. So Gary is retiring at the end of the year. And so Ryan is taken over his spot for us. Have really enjoyed working with Gary. He's just done great things for our organization and just been wonderful to work with. And I've had opportunity to work with Ryan now for a few months. So kind of, I think, first of the year, more or less. Yeah. And he's been great to work with too, very helpful, especially as we've gone through this insurance renewal process. And so they're going to present our insurance renewal for the commission to consider. And as a part of this, we switched last year, our workers' comp insurance switched from CS to SAFE. And SAFE has a little bit different renewal process. We have a sign off that we need to do for them. We actually didn't recognize that before we did the meeting last year. So we've included that with the commission packet, and we're looking, besides acceptance of the insurance renewal, if the commission is willing to do that, also approval of the mayor and the clerk to sign the SAFE renewal application for us. So take it to that. All right. Yeah. Very good.
Good afternoon. Thank you for letting us join you annually. And yes, I have some big shoes to fill. Gary and I worked together 24 years, and he had to move to Idaho. So yeah, I know, I'm just giving you a background, but no, we're grateful for the 24 years at Hagen Hamilton that he has served us, and certainly was a mentor to me. So the reason we didn't have any pizza is our first meeting was at the Blue Moon. We had a hamburger and a beer, so we were going to go back. We were going to go back and have a burger after the meeting tonight. So anyway, I'm Ryan Hartzell. I'm one of the partners at Hagen Hamilton. Been there for 24 years. Insurance is all I've done since I graduated college. 4th generation resident here in MW&L, and 5 children, pretty much now grown. So I was just really enjoying the history or watching this. I was trying to remember back when the construction happened of this building, because this was a little league field. In fact, the first baseline was like just right here, and the dugouts are right here. So we were amazed when they, built the fields down there because those flooded during our baseball games all the time. So it was kind of amazing that they were able to pull it off, get fields there. That's a beautiful facility. So yeah, so with that, everybody got a chance to look at the stewardship report, and I think that insurance is just full of lots of pages and documents. So I want to make sure we present something that is clear and concise for the commission to look at, that's understanding the trends and what's going on in insurance. And I'll cover a few high points, and then happy to take some questions on there. The main part of the insurance portfolio for water and light, of course, is the property. If we're seeing any tough part of any of the insurance marketplace right now, it is with regard to property. It's getting harder to find more affordable insurance with the wildfires we saw. We're seeing insurance carriers pull out particular areas. We're seeing the largest carriers in California not offer people homeowners insurance anymore. We're seeing it here in Oregon. If you have a house in Black Butte or Sun River, it's getting really hard to find, insurance for those folks. So property insurance is almost to a crisis mode, which impacts reinsurance for large property values. So luckily with CIS, they get on that early. They get negotiating with their reinsurance carriers as much as they can. But Mark and I attended a meeting, I believe, back in March or April. We were going to expect property insurance to be up 25%. Water and light came under that a little bit. That wasn't strictly all rate. That was some just increasing the values. So I think total values for all the properties with insuring and clearing, including all the, piping and sewer lines, were $225 million, up from about 204. So pretty substantial there. So I thought the increase was 20.13%. We tried to offset that a little bit by, the decision made obviously to maybe look at some higher deductibles on the auto. So we went up on that a little bit to try to offset a few dollars. And that's kind of where we landed. Any questions on the property casualty?
Real quickly, Frank. Did I hear you say piping and sewer lines?
Yeah, it's water lines.
Water lines, yeah. I meant water lines, yeah.
That-
I have a lot of public entities, so I'm
Yeah,
used to
you-
saying sewer too.
We don't want to pay their insurance.
That's right. No, so we don't want to do that.
The
So,
reason we included those was so they'd be covered under the earthquake.
Yes,
That
Yeah.
was the sole reason.
thank you.
yeah, thank you for the clarification. And part two, that obviously earthquake is a big exposure here. So wanted to make sure we managed to increase the or look at what the increase would be on the earthquake, which always is a tough place to find the market. Part of the process we go through is making sure we can get to where we need to be on the available limits of insurance. We're able to maintain what we had, the 50 million total, which is the 30 million excess. We looked at about 18 different carriers, and clearly the renewal carrier where we had that with Landmark was our best option. So we worked that pretty hard. Workers' compensation, as Mark mentioned, this actually, as Gary and I have looked at the history, worked out quite well. So you had a retro plan, meaning that previously you'd pay a certain amount, say $35,000, you'd have a retro plan. If losses claims got to a certain number, you'd hit that sort of, that higher limit, which could be $130,000. When the SAFE renewal happened, CIS is no longer writing workers' compensation, so SAFE was sort of the only option. It was a guaranteed cost plan, meaning that there's no retro, and so it was a good year to have losses the last 2 years, which as we had in 21-22, we had more in claims than we paid out in premium. 2022 to 23, we're sitting right now at 22,000. It looks like that will creep up probably over what you paid in premium. So so buying guaranteed insurance was a good plan. That worked out quite well.
So do we have a mod rate?
You do. Yep. It's going to be 0.85,
And it's up from what?
0.64.
Ryan, why did that go up if we went down from 52,000 to 22,000?
Good question. Thank you for asking. The claims for 22-23 are not counted yet. So
Okay,
we
so
count the
it'll be
3
next year.
previous years.
Great.
So
Thank you.
yeah, that impacted that. But specifically because of claims was really, the increase of the mod. Now, anything less than 1 is good. So 0.85 is still
Yeah, but
Quite-
0.6 is
quite
even
strong.
better. So
0.6 is, yeah, about
what,
that's 1%. You got
if we got it once, we should get, what kind of claims have driven that?
There were 2 specific claims, and Mark and I took a look at this specifically. We had 2 injured workers, and let me get to that.
Did we do root cause analysis and all that? You know, we have a safety officer that should be working with.
Yeah, it was just two large planes that had come in.
Assume they were the construction guys in that office.
They were definitely field people that had come out. So let's see, one was for the incurred loss for this year, happened in 2/12/2023. And the 22,000 is what's been incurred so far. Looks like that could go to 81,000, but that's one claim.
And for what kind of an incident?
It was a disabling incident, and
It was a training. They were in training.
Somebody break a leg, broke an ankle, but
Yeah,
Just, I think, it had a shoulder issue.
yeah, we probably don't want to get into specifics of specific injuries.
Or names.
yeah,
so
Yep.
what have we okay, this is, we need to probably make note for the record to have a discussion about safety protocols.
Yeah. It was actually, it was training and it wasn't here. Actually.
Really?
Yeah, just to interject one thing, as we've talked through the years with that retro plan, that we were always nervous about 1 or 2 claims, just totally throwing the wrench into the works, and you guys did such a good job of managing all your claims. But when we went to say their price for their premium for the full guarantee cost, which locked it in for, after this year, there's no additional cost.
Okay.
Went from like 33,000 to 40,000 to get the guaranteed cost. Safe did such a good job on that. And so you've had a slight increase in premium with no tails. I remember, Ed, I think at one time you got hit by a retro pretty hard. And then when you have a payroll of millions of dollars, well, when you're, put it this way, the premiums are $40,000. One back injury could be
Sure.
300,000. And so that's where we felt like you just did a marvelous job through all these years, keeping everybody shook their head and said, there's no way Water and Light should be on a retro. But it was profitable year after year after year.
Well, we were really,
Yes. I mean,
diligent about.
well managed, yes, but then again, there's a little bit of fortune, fortune involved, so to have
That's some
two,
COVID years didn't help either, so.
yeah, and see,
that was-
COVID claims aren't included in your model.
Yeah.
So but you would have had to repay those. So that was a good year to go to the guaranteed cost plan, because there was a lot of COVID losses. They were paying them out freely. But so that because of that, it was a little bit of uncertainty as to how to handle it. So they kind of benefited the employers by not including them in the mod calculations. But you did have one loss that year, which also was a fairly significant loss. And then so they keep the last 4 years, kick out, don't count the most recent one because it hasn't developed yet. And then after that, that'll drop in next year. So that'll actually help your mod if it can control the costs on that 80, that reserve.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to throw that in there.
And the analysis tells us that we don't have a frequency problem. So we had one claim in 2021, we had one claim in 2022 that were larger than what you paid in premium. So there's no pattern, no frequency. That's what we're looking for. We'll look at the analysis.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next big portion of the insurance portfolio is the cyber insurance. That is still sort of in motion right now. That is a moving target. We actually had a meeting yesterday just to look at really securing. We're seeing so much with social engineering, vendors and customers getting tricked on their end, which could impact Water and Light. So we're really short on procedures there. We have coverage if somebody, an employee were to be tricked here at Water and Light into sending some sort of wayward payment. That's a small portion of the cyber. Lots of things going on in the cyber world we're keeping an eye on. So we have a renewal in August, but we are really shopping the market hard to make sure we can really increase. The two big things in cyber we see are email fraud and ransomware. And so we really want to make sure those limits of insurance, we can get as much as we possibly can. But that's going to be kind of in a, continuing line of insurance on that going forward.
I thought I read in here that you were recommending we don't pursue cyber coverage. I thought that was the recommendation that came forward in light of the increased property taxes and then the major increase in cyber insurance this year, which was a major increase over cyber insurance last year. I thought it was around $400,000 in cyber insurance, and that your recommendation was to not take any, to not pursue cyber insurance.
We weren't recommending the cyber renewal right now till all the options came in, but really maintaining, we want to make sure we
So
definitely keep
you're
cyber insurance.
recommending cyber insurance down the road, just not this renewal.
Yeah, it renews August 19th, and we don't have all the proposals back. So we definitely are recommending you're going to keep cyber. We just didn't have Cowbell's a current insurance provider. We just said, we're not really ready to recommend just them. We want to see what else is out there in case we want to stack or silo or look at other options to recommend to you.
Do you anticipate seeing much difference? We saw those major increases coming last year. We were at 17 companies, I think, that are providing cyber insurance. So, and you've got they've got the market cornered and increased threats and increased pressure just constantly. So, I mean, I understand. I understand now that your recommendation is just to wait on approving the cyber insurance, not to not pursue it at all. But it also kind of brings up this larger question of where you see that going. I mean, I think last year it was up about 20 or 25% as well. And so then if it's up 25% again this year, I mean, $400,000 and then if I remember from last year, it was also with a pretty low limit, like what we were paying in versus what we could get out was pretty nominal compared to the size of the agency.
So the cyber premium's $20,000. 400,000 is more of just the non-CIS stuff, or the CIS is 484,000. So cyber's 20,000. I think we'll see some increase there. I think it's stabilized a little bit in that regard. But I think that cyber's probably the biggest. We have a big denial of service claim or ransomware. We're going to want the expertise the cyber carrier provides us to do investigations, that forensic accounting, that if we have a vendor that causes water line loss, we want somebody working on water lines behalf to help subrogate and get recovery. And you get that with a cyber insurance besides just the cost of, defense or payout. So it's both first and third party coverage that we really want to continue to have that muscle behind to go get recovery. Because the vendors play a pretty important role in their level of cyber coverage too. And so we're really checking contracts to make sure, hey, if you're touching the computer systems of water line, or you have some really important networking function, we got to make sure your limits of insurance can take care of us. So
yeah. So can they though? I mean, I think that's kind of my question. So we're seeing a 25% year increase year after year, but we only have so much
You got a
coverage.
great memory because we talked about that. There was 17 specific carriers last year that were really the big players. So you're right on. But we've had cyber since 2012 because when you went to the credit card system, you needed to get it in place. So that's why it's an off date. So it renews like August 12th or something.
August.
But what it was is nobody was buying cyber. So all of a sudden these companies started coming in and giving it very high limits for real low rates. The year before last, it was like $5,000 for a $5 million limit. And then they went out of business. They completely pulled out of cyber because you don't know what you don't know. And so, but they thought, well, if we can just get more people involved, we'll have enough premium to pay any claims, but it was just overwhelmed them. Then last year was where we got hit everywhere. Cyber became, the premiums doubled, tripled, went up, really high. This year, I don't know exactly where we'll be at, but at the same time, I do expect you to see cyber increases over the next several years.
But I thought also they limited because of our system too.
There was some MFA, which wasn't in place yet. I think you've addressed that though, right? I know Thad was working on that. And so those are some things, and they've actually softened, some of these companies have softened their position on some of that's the multi-factor authentication that everybody hates, but at the same time, that's what it requires. And so there are some changes on the insurance side, but right now I see the premium because of the claims have gone up exponentially.
Yeah.
And so I do expect you to see some significant increases over the next several years there.
Okay, and I think last year we also asked the question of what are the things that we can do internally to help control those costs? I know that we've some of those things have been completed. How do we actually see how that plays into the plan? If you tell me do these 5 things and it'll affect your rates.
Good question. It does, but it's one of those things where you don't know how much impact it has, because at the same time you're getting those in place, it's putting you in a better position to get the insurance, but at the same time, all the claims are going up exponentially. So you got a rate increase for that on one side. And if you wouldn't have done them, what would have happened? I don't know, but it probably would have gone up even more, or you would have had less availability as far as your markets are concerned. So you kind of have to stay on both sides. And it is a balancing act. It is frustrating.
I think the biggest thing will be the multi-factor authentication. Once that's fully implemented, we can say it's there, we can get higher limits. That's gonna help. Yeah.
This is that. I think some of this discussion might be appropriate at a later time.
We'll have,
Yeah, I know we're having executive session after the meeting. I'm just asking about rates
Mhm.
right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
These are general terms, pretty much, but those are the things that are driving the premiums right now. But it's still a fluctuation in the marketplace. It's not the same as property insurers. I mean, they have their own capacity limitations. And usually it's a group of insurers that get together and like kind of, so it's a totally different insurance product than anything I've ever written.
That's all my questions right now. You want to keep going?
Well, I think just to be sensitive on time, that we will have more options to present, follow up with the cyber discussion. This will be continuing evolving. I think in transferring risk, looking at vendors, we've done that. And I think not having claims will be the most important thing for affordable cyber insurance. That's a big one.
Okay, so is the commission ready to take action on the proposal?
Yes.
Okay, well, what we'll be looking here is for a motion to approve the insurance proposal, the program for fiscal year 2023-24, and authorization for the mayor and commission clerk to sign the attached FY 23-24 safe workers' compensation insurance renewal form, understanding that the program insurance that's being proposed is a city county insurance with the proposed premium of $484,056, the safe premium $70,488, landmark American excess earthquake at $131,823, and then to authorize for the fiduciary liability $58,96. Is that a firm number? Is that that's an estimated number at this point?
That's an estimated
That's
number
an
at this point.
We'll authorize that up to that number, which we think will cover it, and not the cowbell.
Correct.
Right, so that's what the motion covers.
so moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gormley and a second from Chair Tankersley. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
All right.
And those opposed, nay. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much and congratulations
Thanks.
on your retirement.
I want to
feel like you
thank
should-
everybody for your friendship and support and everything else. And if you ever get up to Sandpoint, Idaho, I saw Ed at a concert last summer. Actually, his family is property owners there, and
Kim and her husband have a home within half mile of yours.
yeah, so it's kind of fun to see friendly faces. So
A great concert too.
yeah, it was fun. So. But thank you for everything. Thanks for supporting Hagen Hamilton. I mean, this goes back way before Dale Moore and all the people on the wall there. Basically, it seems like we went back to work with everybody. So thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Congratulations, good luck.
Jerry, thank you for taking care of us here at Water.
Yeah.
Oh, we've had a lot of fun. Yeah.
helping me in other things too. so.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, no kidding. I say it's a long 8 seconds.
What's your outgoing sock choice for your
Oh.
last Water and Light Commission meeting?
Oh, I have my Monopoly socks on.
Oh, fantastic.
Love it, yeah.
I should wear turtles tonight.
I wear turtles a lot, but that's my little kind of collection thing. I love
We're
turtles.
giving Gary several turtles over the years.
Yeah. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Jail free card, is that what they're?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I need.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I probably won't be at the city meeting.
Oh.
Brian's got that one.
All right. Well. Almost done.
Teeny.
Anyway, it's really, it's really good.
One of the guys just from Tampa.
Oh, that's
Just out of the grass.
See you.
Okay, you too.
See you.
Okay, we will now move, we'll now invite James Burke up to talk about our wildfire mitigation plan updates.
So last year around May, I think it was in May, actually, Scott Rosenbaum and Bob Klein gave this presentation, and both of them since then have been retired, so which has been good. Tonight, you have the plan before you. It's the draft is revised. I have with Brian Sticka, Assistant Water Superintendent, and Brent Scribner, he's our Senior Electrical Engineer. So both of these gentlemen here have played an instrumental role behind the scenes on the wildfire mitigation plan. John and I get involved often in it as well. We also have a team behind these two that help out, and that includes, the line crew and the water crew, water treatment plant staff. We have Brent also helps up at the watershed. So it's really a group effort in regards to these two plans. One of the plans is required through the Oregon state law, and that's the electrical one. So that's the one that kind of pushed us forward last year is on the time frame. So that's the one that is required for our commission to review, and we decided every year to go back and revisit this plan, kind of see how it's working, make modifications to it, update it, and you'll have a chance to put out recommendations as well and go from there. And then the watershed plan is more of a best management practices. We've always had a plan for up there, but this one actually puts it in paper. We have in the appendices, we have other agencies tied to it as well. And we reach out to them annually, sometimes more often. We train with some of them. ODF is one of the companies that come up with forestry and provides training for us and go from there. So for the questions tonight, at least you can answer some more detailed questions if you like. I'll kind of walk through some of the things we came across last year. We had one red flag warning that took place. This is on the electrical side. We have the tree trimming crew. We retain them for and it with an additional 2 crews, and they're on a 3-year cycle. So they go through and make sure our lines are cleared, look at the hazard areas as well. They work directly with Brent and Gene, our electrical superintendent out there. We adjusted some of the reclosers. We replaced aging recloser controls with new ones, and we installed 2 new reclosers over on Willis Road and Orchard View. On the watershed, our annual stuff is train with ODF. That was one of them. That's coming up in June. Is that correct?
Next week.
Next weekend, yeah. And then we continue to monitor the hazards up in the watershed. Some of that includes frequent patrols, making sure we don't have people up there camping, working with the sheriff, those kind of things. We also have on site a tanker truck, a brush truck, and a dozer, so we can quickly react if there is a brush fire up there. And then in our plan itself, we have a complete list of updates of phone numbers. So we reach out to them and we update those on an annual basis, sometimes more frequently, but make sure we have the right people to get a hold of in case there is an emergency. So at this point, I can open up to some discussions or some questions you may have.
So what changes did you make since last year? Plan.
Did you refer to both plans or?
Yeah, either way.
Okay, let's talk about the electrical one.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so on the electrical side, the plan last year was laid out primarily as entirely next steps, coming into it blind, what studies need to be done, what improvements need to be done, what are the timelines for that. So we're a year into this, most of the studies have been completed, and the major addition was moving many of the next steps into a new kind of distribution hardening progress section, tracking what we've done so far. There are still next steps. There are still some additional studies that need to be completed, but a lot of effort has been put into getting the new reclosers for better sectionalizing up the Baker Creek area, and reviewing kind of what are our highest risk areas, which I think it's important to note that we don't have any of the like extreme risk or the high risk that the PUC is interested in that triggers like the most stringent level of annual inspections. The most high risk area in our system is still in the state fire plan considered low ignition probability. So we have a pretty fortunately laid out system. And then additionally, we maintain a good electric system. We do not have violations that don't get fixed rapidly. So as part of kind of the lessons learned that the PUC hosted over the last year, many utilities were lamenting, working with some of the communication companies that do not quickly repair violations on their system or some other things. But I think we have been fortunate and we do not have any longstanding violations in any of the at-risk areas. Additionally, recently, the city of McMinnville has put forward a draft, I'm not sure what stage it is, comprehensive natural hazards plan. And we did some mapping work in conjunction with the city to kind of see where does our overhead sections align with their identified wild hazards. In the fire area, I think we had a total of 4 poles that just barely overlapped. So
That's good news.
Thank you.
Yeah, so in regards to that, the sections in it, you added a hardening section, right? That's the 4.3. That's a new section in the actual plan.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
That is new. And then we looked at sections. So 4.4 is also the next steps. We made some on the short term and long term, some modifications to that. It's basically there's updates there.
So some of my notes, and I was looking to double check myself before making this comment, but I'm not finding it right now. One thing that I think that McMinnville fire is called out in the plan as we adopt it, we'll probably want to make sure that it's reflective of the new fire district. And then the other note was on the interagency collaboration. There's a long list of agencies. The city isn't detailed in that list of agencies, and I know that the city is not in and of itself an emergency responder, but we do have emergency response and communications as part of the work that we do. And so I would offer up that including the city of McMinnville as one of the agencies that we should have interagency collaboration with in the case of an emergency would be a reasonable addition to the list of emergency management agencies that are in that. My other notes were just, I liked learning about the non-reclose settings as opposed to, because of you talked about a methodology or a mindset of no interruption to service at the beginning of the document, which isn't the only pathway, right? I mean, you could have other formations that didn't focus so much on uninterrupted service. So I enjoyed a lot reading about that, and the hardening steps I thought as well were it was informative, and thank you.
So Remy, I'd like to tell a little story on John here. He
I like
talked to me about doing that, and then 2 years later, the co-op that gives power to my cabin, and their newsletter said, we're starting to do this. So John was 2 years ahead, and they have a lot more overhead and a lot more forested land, but John was ahead. So
Excellent.
And then on the
water side, it was just contact updates. The meeting 2 days essentially stayed the same. Several well, Carlton and Yano both had new fire chiefs, so I introduced myself to them, and they have all updated maps and keys that are necessary, and then also the wildland fire supervisor for ODF is also new since our last revision, so just contacted them, make sure I have the right contacts.
And we're doing annual training with ODF. right,
ODF is the annual, yeah, and that's happening
For-
Monday.
For our crews as well.
Other questions, comments?
I was just gonna say I was really surprised how comprehensive and detailed this is. And yes, I might have seen it last year, but it wasn't fresh in my memory. So it was amazing to see how detailed it was. And I think particularly it gave me a lot of, it made me feel really comfortable about our partnering with other resources and communities and communication, which, you know, I don't have any insight into, but I always hope is happening. And, you know, this is a real demonstration of how much work you do to keep involved with all of our communities. So yeah, great work.
So I would ask before we go to a motion, if the commission is generally comfortable with the two changes or amendments that I suggested of the adding the city and fire district. Okay.
Yes.
Sam, do you want to,
Well, what I propose is, and you're talking, and that the changes are to the electric plan, is that correct?
the changes I think are, well, yes, and
Yeah.
Be both.
We can update both.
Okay, update both with contact information for the new fire district and for the city.
and to include the city of McMinnville in the interagency collaboration.
All right. And okay, well, what we'll do is, because we have resolutions for updating both, but we'll make those resolutions subject to those additional provisions, and we'll just include that in the minutes. Do that. So you've got resolution 2023 relating to the electric wildfire mitigation plan. Understanding this will be a resolution being approved subject to additional requirements to update the plan for contact information for the city and for the new fire district, and requirement for collaboration with those agencies. And that's it. So if you want to maybe take care of that resolution first.
Sure, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gormley
Second.
and a second from Chair Tankersley. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Oh,
It's resolution.
oh, it's a
That's
resolution.
resolution 2023-4.
22-4, and we'd like to pull the commission,
Commission,
please.
that's-
Sorry, thank you.
That's okay.
Yes, Sam, did you read the resolution by title or?
It's a resolution by the city of McMinnville acted by the Water and Light Commission updating the electric wildfire mitigation plan subject to the changes that will be reflected in the minutes.
Okay, Mayor Dropkin,
Aye.
Commissioner Tankersley,
Aye.
Commissioner Gormley,
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Tate.
Aye.
And go ahead.
And then we also have resolution number 2023-5. This is a resolution by the city of McMinnville acting by and through its Water and Light Commission updating the watershed wildfire mitigation plan, also subject to the additional items that will be reflected in the minutes, requiring collaboration with both the new fire district and the city of McMinnville.
So moved.
A motion from Commissioner Gormley
Second.
and a second from Commissioner Tate. And if the clerk will please poll the commission.
Yes, Mayor Dropkin,
Aye.
Commissioner Tankersley,
Aye.
Commissioner Gormley,
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Tate.
Aye.
And the resolution is adopted unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank staff. There's a lot of work that went into it,
Yeah.
and it looks like it was very effective too, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I think the thing is some of them- so the charge.
It should.
Okay, we're now going to talk about our setting the date for our public hearing on water rates. And then after that, we're going into the adoption of the budget. And there is we do have some expressed interest from the commission to have a work session in advance of the public hearing. So before we go into action on these, we have a few, there's only very few dates. Well, first of all, I would kind of like to take a straw poll, if I could, of the commission to see if there's a general interest in having the work session, because if not, no need to figure out when we could have it. So I'm happy to do that in the body of one of these items, if you like. I would turn to you for your advice on that of how and where to handle that appropriately.
So are we speaking about a work session on water rates?
Work session specific to the budget,
Oh, specific. to the budget.
in advance of adoption of the budget.
Okay. Well, I think what we have to, the charter requires that the commission approve an estimate of probable expenses, which we call the budget, prior to July 1. So today is June 20th. So if you're speaking to maintaining that requirement, then we need a work session between now and July 1.
But we're going to request this public hearing.
September.
Right, but the budget's adopted, then what
expenditures.
follows from that, the expenditures, what follows from that is it's adopted, and then you go into the process, the rate hearing process. So the rate hearing has to occur before you reset the rate,
Right.
but it doesn't have to occur before July 1.
So the request on the review, the work session related to expenditures then would need to be next week, essentially. Yeah.
And unless the discussion, I mean, my understanding is we can adopt the budget as presented, but there can be further discussions around the budget.
Right,
and
you have to have
amendments
an
to the
estimate.
budget.
You're supposed to have an estimate in place by July 1. You can change what you're going to spend during the year, during the course of the year, but the requirement is to have something in place that a rate hearing can be built around by July 1.
And is the idea that the work session would be in advance of the rate hearing to work through that discussion?
So really, we have dates between July, August, and the first part of September.
So to me, at least that's what I had assumed, that the work session would be around taking a deep dive into the rates discussion.
That's tight.
Julie, I think the problem is that the rate design is done based on what the budget says.
Mhm.
And if we're not comfortable with the budget, we need to get that taken care of before we
Ah.
have them start the rate design.
So we could approve the authorized expenditures. But if any modifications were to be made to that, they would really need to be made very quickly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would negatively impact the rate.
It's going to affect, we have a rate consultant working on rates, and we're anticipating an electric rate hearing July 13th, is that right?
In July, yeah.
July 12th
July.
or 13th.
So we're on a kind of a time frame to
Yeah.
reach rates, and rates typically become effective October 1.
Yes,
Right, Trina?
yes.
So I'll just kind of put that back out to the commission if they're kind of wanting and willing to come back for a work session, essentially sometime in the next 2 weeks. Since it's a very fast turnaround, I recognize that. And if so, we can work on specific dates.
And I think we can make some changes tonight. If there's some things that we can handle quickly, I think there's the one thing we can handle quickly. It's not a lot of money, but it's there. And the other things though that I think maybe it takes more talking than this, I think.
That was my feeling, is that, I feel like we're in a different place than I expected us to be when we got the budget, and there's some reasons for that. Some of them are, very understandable, but it doesn't change the fact that, I feel like now we're going into these rate hearings with this thought that we're gonna have to raise rates every year to fix this, to get things where we want them to be. And maybe there's some other discussions that need to be had before we make a decision about how aggressive we're gonna be looking at rate increases. So
Yeah.
that was and the budget is so complicated and, you know, there's so much to it. And I think having Mark and John in the room to, you know, help clarify some things and give some, you know, direction based on some future visioning is very helpful. And I can't do that in my own vacuum. So, and so, you know, I might, everybody, I mean, I think we should take a straw.
Yes,
Because maybe I'm the person who wants to do
No,
that.
I too would benefit from that kind of discussion.
Okay, so we definitely want to get a work session in short order here. I know it's a little odd to do calendaring here, but given that we're in such a tight time frame, I think if we pause and do that, that there would be a benefit to it and kind of allow us to set that and then move forward. I would throw out next June 26th at 6 p.m. It's a Monday evening. I would say the Tuesday, but we have council that evening, so provides a challenge for me. So see June 26th at 6 p.m.
I would have to phone in, but I could do it.
Have to phone in, but you
Yeah.
can do it. Okay.
Would you rather be here in person? What, would you rather be here in person?
Well, but I'm gonna be out of town.
I mean, that's what a date, maybe.
Will
we
you
set a
be
date.
back, the beginning of, so July,
date?
early July, will you, like
Yeah.
July 5th, 6th, 7th?
Yeah, I'll be back on
A week of the.
Yeah.
July.
4th of July.
July
That's
5th.
that's gonna be tough.
Yeah, people are gonna be on vacation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the 26th, the other, could also,
What about earlier in the morning? I can't do the 26th.
you can't do the 26th.
How about
Okay.
early in the morning?
On the 26th, I can't call in earlier than that.
Well, no, it doesn't have to be the 20. What about the 20, early on the 27th or 28th?
Oh, sure.
I can't do any of those days
Is the 26th the only day you're available?
that week. I'm going out of town.
I'm open Friday in the morning on the 30th.
Did we already eliminate the 29th? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we eliminated.
Kathy's not available.
Okay.
How about this week?
Oh, boy.
Like that. I'm very.
Do we need
I
to
could come back.
notice a work session?
We do have to notice
Yeah.
a special meeting.
Seven.
I think it's Trina, what
Or
is
is it
it?
24 hours?
No, it's.
Yeah. It's at least 24
Yeah, we have a maximum period too.
of 96.
96, between 96 and 24 hours. Or
Okay, so
I'm available tomorrow.
June 22nd, I have a budget committee work session tomorrow.
You could do it Friday. Afterward.
I can do that.
Can't do Friday.
Okay.
So is the 22nd not available?
I
can do
I
it.
can do that.
5 meetings that
No.
day.
Okay,
I can do the 22nd. How long do we think the meeting will go?
at least an hour. I would say for the
I'd say 90 minutes.
conversation that's needed, at least an hour. Okay, yeah, an hour to 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And we're thinking after 5.
Do it Friday afternoon to, 5 or 6. I don't think Kathy wasn't.
Kathy's
I can do it after, I have a commitment till 4.
I can be here Friday afternoon. That's the 23rd, right?
Mhm.
We really love this work.
Can we hold that in reserve? I have I have a patient coming home that day that I'm supposed to be taking care of in the evening, so I
Okay.
prefer to, I could phone in on Friday, but it'd be hard to be here in
What
person.
about during the day on Friday?
I'm not available till 4.
Not till 4. Okay.
This is
No.
hard.
This is hard.
Remy, what about,
It's hard.
the 28th, Wednesday?
Kathy's
Kathy's not available that week. What's that? Kathy's not available. Okay.
Friday, the 30th, there was a suggestion for a morning hour. Was that available for
I've got
everyone?
hospital boards at 10, so.
Oh, my goodness. Um,
So
Okay.
is the 3rd out because 4th is a
I
holiday?
think the 3rd is out.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Trina, what is Mark expecting from us?
So I don't think what we're discussing here has to do with setting the date for the public hearing for the water rates, right? This is just to
No, this is
review
what's-
the budget. We just need to get the date set so we get Mark on the schedule.
Yeah.
And then we
Yeah,
We
can.
could give him some more time, right?
Well, that's why I
He
was
could
asking.
Give us more time.
Yeah,
So early in July sometime.
yeah, it could be, it doesn't have, that's why I was trying, maybe we're trying to make this too hard.
Like we could push the July 12th date out.
Is that possible, Trina?
No, for the electric rate hearing?
yeah.
No, that's already been publicized. We can't change that date. I thought we were talking about water rates.
Well,
Supposed to be.
that's still the rate hearing, but you have,
What we're really talking about is the budget.
Right.
We're talking about, we're trying,
Or the-
this is preliminary to approving the budget, and the date that's important there is July 1.
right,
July 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And we could do it potentially the following week because we would approve it, have the work session. If we wanted to modify it,
Yes,
wouldn't
you
be
do.
such a big departure that we would know we'd have that, and it would be reasonable to say, don't work on this week.
So tomorrow night, the 20, if we did it at 5:30.
because you have 24 hours, right?
I haven't noticed it though, so we can't do it that quickly.
The city has a budget committee work session.
And I have a meeting at.
So is there a suggestion that we do it after the 12th then? Like we have
Well,
the
Well,
hearing
not after
that.
the 12th, but we could do it the night of the 5th.
And so all we'll be doing on July 12th is hearing a report for Mark Boshaw. Like that work has already been completed. So adoption of this next year's budget or anything isn't contingent upon what Mark is going to report. If there's major changes to that budget, then we would have to take a look and see how that might impact the rate track. But they've already pretty much completed that work at this point. So.
Well, and I think that's kind of what's on the table is the potential of discussion anyways, right? Around, I mean, that's what it's for. So I think that's what we're trying to avoid is creating a situation where we approve something, go back and make changes that do affect the rate track or, you know, cause a rework of a situation.
What time is the rate hearing on the 12th, Trina?
That we're starting at 3 p.m.
Is that our normal meeting?
No, that is our normal meeting, but it's on an unusual date. So that's a Thursday, July 13th at 3 p.m. is when we decided to do that.
Something to do it before then.
Mhm.
Same day, you mean?
Or the day before.
And that hearing is anticipated to be continued until September. So we will not be adopting anything at that July hearing. We're just going to hear the report. So if changes are needed, then we still have about 2 months to make those changes before rates will be proposed to the commission in September.
Opening your public meeting on July 13th, but you will not.
We're not
conclude.
closing it.
You're not closing it,
What
correct?
about July 10th, just to not to have such a
So
strict,
is that Monday?
that's the Monday, we could do a 6 p.m. and that way it's not, well, you have an hour and a half and then you have to go into this public hearing because it's noticed.
Yeah, I'm open.
I'm open.
I'm okay with that date.
Wait, look just a second.
4 or 5, 80% here.
Yes,
Heard
I don't-
it, yeah.
so we're talking about,
Someday I'm.
yeah, which day? The 11th,
July 10th.
Need one.
July 10th.
Totally.
Yeah, that works for me.
I gotta use this phone to check.
I think we got everybody.
I know. Like,
And I can be here.
Great, July 10th at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you all for your work around that. So we will now go, now we'll turn this over to you, to our clerk, Trina McManus, to talk about the commission setting a public hearing on water rates for September 12th.
Yeah, so this public hearing will be to discuss water rates. We did have UFS complete a cost of service study just a year ago in 2022. And at that time, they provided a 4-year rate track, just suggesting that we do 2% each year based on the information that they've had. Since then, we've had a few items mainly coming up in the draft budget to where a number of things have changed. And so we did go back to UFS and ask them to take another look at the rate track, and they will be kind of updating their cost of service and providing some updated recommendations to the commission. What we are asking is for setting a special meeting in September ahead of the regularly scheduled meeting, mainly because the consultant Mark Beauchamp is not available on our regularly scheduled date, and we need him there to talk about the updated cost of service. So September 12th is a date that he threw out that he is available to talk to the commission. The 3 p.m. time is flexible if that does not work for the commission. The other date that he suggested was the 26th of September is an option, but that gives us a very small turnaround time to get all the rates set in place by October 1. So we were kind of hoping that the 12th would be a date that might work for everybody. So this meeting would just be to do the public hearing on the water rates. And then we probably would close that hearing the same evening.
So the reason that we're looking at 3 o'clock is because you have a city council meeting that
I
night.
have a city council meeting at 6 o'clock that night.
And we could do earlier, but that's just, yeah, the 3 o'clock.
Could we scooch it to 4?
That's fine. It's fine with me. I mean, the risk is that, I mean, that's fine with me. I'm sure we can also set it up that if we're running long, that they can start that meeting.
Okay, maybe
So-
we should just leave it 3.
I don't,
It's just
I
my
mean,
day
it's,
is kind of weird when I leave it.
I mean, I think it most
3
likely
is
we'll have
fine.
one person here
Yeah.
to submit testimony. That's
So
it.
we'll have to check
So
with them to see it.
And Trina, we're doing the regular business too at that time?
No, this meeting will only be to talk about, do the public hearing for
Oh,
water
it'll
rates.
only be less than an hour.
Yeah, that's why I was
Okay,
just saying
let's
we could.
leave it at 3 because that makes it easier for your schedule. So I'm
No, it actually 4 o'clock is
4
better for
o'clock
mine,
sounds-
but it sounded like 3 with when the rate specialist could come.
Is he available at 4?
We can do 4.
No straw poll, everybody.
Okay,
Is 4
great.
o'clock good?
So we're gonna amend this request here to set a public hearing on water rates for September 12th, 2023 at 4 o'clock PM, please. Oofda.
And direct staff to advertise the hearing in English and Spanish.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Wow. The
Do we have a motion for that?
schedule.
Do we need we need a motion. Okay,
Yes.
so moved by Commissioner Gormley,
Second.
second by Chair Tankersley. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed say nay. And motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience with that and work with us on that.
Thank you.
We have to
Yes.
set, do we have to have a motion to set the special meeting too?
Well, we've set a meeting, which is a special, it is a special meeting. It's not the regular meeting.
Okay, but we've set it for.
Yes, okay, maybe about for the work
September
session.
12th.
Workshop?
So,
No, the workshop
That was
meeting.
part of the official motion.
are we talking about the second issue in July?
Yeah, we're talking about the
July 10th.
July 10th meeting.
No, we don't.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion to set a work session.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Because we may end up amending the budget there too, right?
We would
We'll
do
still
in the
notice
regular
it.
meeting probably.
Okay, okay, great. Okay.
it'll be
And that's-
noticed, just not, yeah. Okay.
And that was.
Well, it's a
July.
work session, so technically I don't think any action could be taken in the work session.
Yeah.
But
So
you
no,
you
we,
can direct staff to prepare something, come back.
Well, if you want to take it, I mean, it's gonna be a meeting of the commission. So we can notice an agenda as a special meeting. If we want to take action, we can take action. I think that'd be.
okay.
That way.
And then if it is a special meeting and not a work session, then it probably would be best to have a motion from the commission.
You know, I think actually emotions are always great.
Motions are always great.
So I think we can set a meeting.
Okay, great. So
I think that the staff will need some time, though, to prepare the right documents for adoption if there are changes to the budget, and we do have a regular meeting that following week. So if we just left it
Okay.
and didn't take action, but directed staff to make the changes, then we could just have it as an agenda item at the regular meeting.
That feels right.
Great.
What are we
Okay.
doing, Sam?
I
Are we
think we're
motion?
gonna notice this is a
Direct.
special meeting. Okay, whether we take action at the meeting or not.
Right. Yes.
We will notice it as a public meeting. So if you do
Yes.
something that is binding, it'll be legal.
Wonderful. We'll do it that way. And in that case, I have a motion from Commissioner Gormley to add a special meeting of the Water and Light Commission on July 10th at 6 p.m. And do I have a second?
Yes.
I have a second from Commissioner Tate. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. We have set 2 special meetings. Okay, thank you so much. And now we will move on and welcome Mark Dunmeyer, Finance Director, to talk about the proposed water and light fiscal year 2024 authorization of expenditures.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for I'm having a bit of a senior moment. I just wanted to check on the insurance renewal that we did. Was part of the motion that the safe,
renewal.
yeah,
Yes, that
it
was
was.
the
Okay.
authorization. for the
Yes.
mayor and clerk sign.
Yes,
That
good.
was part of, I'm sure Ms.
Okay.
McManus will have that.
Good deal. Thanks. So, yes, before the commission this evening is our proposed budget for commission consideration for approval with or without changes. And so I'll just kind of briefly describe what we did. I mean, there's a lot of changes in the document. Those were highlighted, throughout the document, and they're driven by 2 primary things. One was the discussion that we had when we did the draft budget, had that discussion, $782,000 water operating loss. And so staff was asked to go back and look at that and look at some things that we could do to reduce that loss. And so we did that, and I detailed those changes, what we did related to those reductions, both on page 5, I think it is, in the executive summary. There's a description there, as well as in the very back of the budget document, there's a revisions section. And page 64 details the operating budget changes for both water and light. So some of those operating reductions that we did in the water division, because a lot of our costs, when you look at personnel and things related to supplies that are, like training, some things like that, it just made sense to do that for both divisions. And so we also had some reductions in the light division as well. So those changes were detailed there. 215,000 total for water and 158,000 for the light division. They consisted kind of in 3 categories: some payroll changes. There was also some IT reductions. We talked this evening about insurance. We had a net increase in our insurance, slight increase from what was in the budget. And so we made that change. And then there was just kind of a laundry list of other expenses that were kind of, through the operating expenses of both of the budget, the water and light budgets, that were reduced as well. And those are detailed there. There was another thing that we made a change on, and that was capital. For the water division, it was simply, there was some additional projects that we noted as we were going through that we needed to add. And as there was also some changes where we had some operating expenses that as we looked at those, it became clear that they were really project related. And we decided that we should reclassify those as capital. And so we did that. So that moved those expenses from the operating budget to the capital budget. And so some of those were IT related. So you'll see those there. In the in the light division, we had significant reductions that we did in the light division. And that was driven by an error in the total, actually in the spreadsheet that is the capital improvements plan. I think that was on page 25, I remember right. That that total did not include all the projects. And so when we discovered that, and got the totals accurate, we were drawing cash down more than we felt was what we wanted to do, consistent with prior years and how we've handled the drawdown of cash over the years. And so we made some reductions across each of the years in the projection and CIP in the light division. For 23-24, that was about $1 million reduction. And it went across the last year of the projection was actually a $6 million reduction. And all of that was related to scope and also timing changes in the budget. So, and the net of that, it turned out that we had a drawdown of cash from the beginning of, I think it was 2021, all the way through the end of the projection. It was about a $12 million drawdown to 26 million at the end of the projection. So, and that again is kind of consistent with where we've been in prior years. So we felt comfortable with that after that was done. So some corrective measures that we put in place to deal with that in the future. We added some logic to the spreadsheets, just so that those totals pop out if they don't match or if they don't equal. As well as we've done some additional review that's beyond myself. We always do review of the PDF when I get the PDF developed. The PDF comes from multiple spreadsheets, and there's a lot of actually multiple workbooks, and there's a lot more spreadsheets in each workbook. And so we're now having our senior accountant go through those workbooks and look at the formulas as well as, just looking at the budget numbers, in the PDF. So a little more deeper dive on just verification of our process. So, so as far as the loss goes in the water division, we spent quite a bit of time working on that. We looked at, I guess I kind of described what we did as far as the dollar amounts. The loss is driven in part because we didn't have revenue that we recognized that this year that we were lacking revenue, not just from Carlton, which we knew coming into this, but also the budget was developed on prior revenues that were collected from the summer heat wave, which drove that. It just made the ongoing revenues look higher than they were. So when that came into focus, as well as no revenue from Carlton, that's really where kind of where the wall was. We didn't see this last year. Neither did our rate consultant see it. And so anyway, that's why this kind of just showed up this year all at once. And so our approach was to make several cuts, but we didn't cut. We did cut the cost of living increase. We adjusted that down 1% from 6 to 5, but we didn't look at cutting, other pay benefits or positions at this point. So our approach was to kind of look at some cuts, potentially some revenue increases, and then give it a year and see where we end up in terms of the ongoing costs, how we come in budget to actual, that kind of thing. So, but it sounds like we will look at that in further detail at a future meeting and see ultimately what the commission would like to do. And with that, I'd be happy to try to answer questions.
So before we get into the numbers, on page 39, taxes and tax equivalents, the point 13, as I understand it, that money is we write off the city water bill, not because it's a payment of taxes. That only goes on the electric side, but to compensate for possible unreimbursed costs imposed on the city rights of way. And I would like to have that corrected.
So change the description of that.
Will you go Will you say that again? I'm not quite.
So on the water side here, we write off the city's water bill.
Mhm.
And.
Oh, I see. And it's here as a payment
Payment
of
of
tax.
tax.
I got it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I just think we should be accurate about what we're doing. And then I have another one that's relatively easy, I think. I talked to John about it. When I look at this, it appears that the budget has takes the income on the electric side from the, which
Clean fuel credits.
the clean fuel credits. And there's no offsetting expense. In the budget. So we just sort of, that money's going away. And I think we had talked about trying to find something for that. I think
We're gonna do an integrated resource plan for.
and perhaps also look at maybe some EV charging or something. So I think we should have an expense on that, so it doesn't look like that money is available to spend.
Okay,
Which goes the wrong direction, I know, but
so what is it? Are we thinking a capital expense or a?
We'll have to talk about which one it is, but we'll come up with a.
yeah, because I mean, if we look at cash balances,
Right.
it would show we had more cash than we really planned to have.
Yeah, we certainly could reserve the cash
Yeah.
but if we have an expense that we know that we're gonna put in the budget, we could do that too.
Where that shows in the budget.
It just would be down in the bottom section of the summary that where the different cash balances are
If we could do
calculated,
that.
we'd have to show a reserve there.
We know what the number is, so we can
Mhm.
come up with some.
Yeah, well, I mean, the amount's $100,000, so I think we had to reserve the whole $100,000.
Yeah, it's actually more than that.
Oh,
Clean
okay.
fuel credits.
Okay, great.
So we have the number, so we can put the number as the total, and then we can subtract off what we're gonna spend.
Okay.
So the printed budget that I got at the last meeting and the budget that's included in the packet. Are those identical?
No.
No, there's been
I
changes,
have last year.
right? So there's been changes and
So the printed document that I had printed up prior to, well, it would have been that initially went in the packet last Thursday. There were two changes that I made. Commissioner Tate gave me a call and asked a question about a number that was on page was on page 34 in the water budget. It was like 241,000. That was it was above the it was in the 23-24 budget column. And it was above the water and supply transmission number, that 1,003,000. So that was just an errant number. It was a number that I placed there as part of a calculation I was making for the budget summary. And it should not have been there. So there was that one, and then I saw that there was also one in the light division, and I removed that as well. So that change, those two changes were made, and they were updated and called to order on Monday.
yeah, so, but those didn't change. I guess when I'm looking at
Right.
the final sort of, operating expenses and net income and. I
Right.
mean, those didn't have any
No.
financial
No,
change to the document,
Right.
so. I guess I thought that there was still more work being done since we got the document since we got this document, I thought there was, you have all been working on. Changes to expenses and, looking at other things, so. Like you said that the cost of the merit increase was changed from 6 to 5. Was that already done that was already calculated before we got this document?
that's
Okay.
included in this document. That's in the back. That's
Okay.
indicated in the back.
So since the time we got this document and now, I'm just trying to make sure
Yeah.
that since we got this document now, I know there's been lots of meetings
Right.
and talking and discussions and looking at things, but there's been no
Right.
substantial
From that one.
change
Right.
from this document. So
Right.
this is where we're at right now
Yeah.
without any other further
Yep.
major thoughts about what we could do to
Mhm.
change these numbers,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure I was really clear about that,
Yeah.
because I know you guys are working on so many things and I'm not always sure I'm up to date, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Okay,
sorry.
no, it's okay. Don't be sorry. I have a question. So, in customer service, there's one FTE billed to the city for billing services. And in water in customer service, there's one FTE billed to the city for billing services. So there are two FTEs being billed to the city.
No,
3.5 for each.
yeah, right. So I can make a change out of that.
Is that in the notes,
number,
but not the number?
right. It would be a change of the notes. Mhm.
And then how does that correlate to the, when we implemented city service charge, billing to the city had been too low. It hadn't been a full cost recovery for water and light. And I think that increase, I think it went from something like $600 a year to $140,000 a year from last year to this year, something like that. Is that accurate?
Yeah,
There's a portion for wastewater and then there's a portion for city service.
But that's in addition to the customer service.
Issue. So
That's
the 600 went to the 140.
Yeah,
And then the city service charge has its as a separate piece. So if you looked at the agreement, in the agreement there, I think it's 140 and 148 or 100.
yeah, I was gonna say, I was thinking it was more than, it was like 200, it was over 200,000 that were
And is that in the
collecting.
document?
That is, yeah.
but that's in addition to the one FTE on billing.
That includes
that.
That includes that.
Yeah.
Okay,
So if you looked at the document for the city, the agreement, it says each one of wastewater and the city service have one FTE in their column, 1.5 FTE in each of their columns. So it's a total of one.
okay.
0.5.
Yeah, but it's a total of one.
It's a total of half a FTE for water, half a FTE
Wait.
for light, and then. But those are showing up in water and light, but then that billing is showing up again, but you're saying it's included, so it's not showing, it's not redundant in the expense document, because that's how, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, so that you won't see a bill to the city in the document. What you see is the personnel service reduction, which is part of that charge to the city. You'll see in customer service, there's also postage and billing services that get allocated. There's credit card
What you're
fees.
asking is the FTE, we take the total and then subtract the half.
Yeah, so I'm seeing the line items, oops, I don't know where I just did, but I'm seeing line items, definitely change the page I was on. I'm seeing line items for the two FTEs, but I heard you, it's in the notes that it's a half FTE per division.
Mhm.
And so then it's that other line item that shows the increased billing already has those FTE subtracted out.
Yeah, so because we pay those bills, we have all of the cost in our regular numbers, and then we show a reduction of those costs that we are going to, rather than recording that as revenue when we get the payment from the city, we show that as a reduction to the cost, and so those costs are reduced. So
There's he has a line item that shows the negative.
And so it's the.
on the payroll, yeah.
Okay,
It's on page 38.
okay, thank you.
Shows a $56,000 reduction. That should be a 0.5.
So, but it's in twice as
It's in the
half
water,
time each.
it's in the water budget for 0.5, and it's in the electric budget for 0.5 because it's one total.
But the number,
The note says 1, it should be 0.5.
right, but do the 2.5s add up to the? I saw them as 48 each, but did I read that wrong? Oh, I just lost my place. Sorry.
What page was the reduction on, John? I'm sorry.
38.
38.
Yeah,
Do
and the
they
water
add up
says
to
under
the-
customer account expense. That would be the labor for the FTE,
Oh, city allocation offset. Thank you.
Yeah.
So.
and water has, or electric has the same type of thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, so the. Reloading.
That was page 38.
Yes.
Okay.
So okay.
Yeah, so,
It's broken out.
okay, so that's part of
Okay.
this, okay.
That's the water.
Water.
Well, remember, there's other things in the number besides the,
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
that's
that's
what
what I was
yeah.
trying to add those.
yeah, it's
together.
not gonna
They weren't-
direct
they
that
weren't
across.
fully- Okay, perfect, okay.
Okay, and then my only other question on that is just how's that shaken out? Is it a FTE? I mean, not to affect on this budget, but like, but how are those, you know, part of that agreement was based on projections of needs, and so.
That would be, I think, a question maybe for John. I'm not sure on how it's, you know, how much time we spend. I think the question is how much time we're spending on the wastewater and the city service.
Yeah, I'm
for
I
the
mean, I'm
customers.
curious about the impact. And that's kind of a now, but more of even a future question as we look forward. Is it taking an FTE for that? Is that the right projection? Is it taking less? Is it more? How is it playing out in reality?
I don't really know how the city service charge is gonna play out just because it's still relatively new. But the sewage, the city sewer part of it is definitely winter driven. Just because that's when the calculation starts happening again. A lot of leaks, a lot of more customer calls when they're on their non-averaging time period. So
We spend more time in the winter time dealing with sewer than we do in the summertime.
yeah, we just recently, within probably the last month, closed the book on the majority of all the sewer leaks that happened during the December through March billing periods. So it's really heavy in that period and then a little bit lighter until we hit that period again. City service charge, I don't know if there's any cycles yet. I know it was really front written just because of. So far, everything seems to be working, so it's too early to tell how a cyclical period is gonna happen.
But I think there's at the annual mark, there's a look back
A
to
look
see,
back. Okay.
to see how if we're doing okay.
How we're tracking.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I would agree with that.
Thank you.
So I have a question, I guess, in sort of thinking ahead for doing a work session or planning session to look at this. I mean, there's work that's done to get this to a place where you can present it for approval for this
Right.
next fiscal year. And we need to do that because we need to have a budget in place, but we have a problem that just continues to grow going forward. And so I'm wondering how much work has been done and how much more work there might be coming around looking to the later fiscal years and thinking about what else can be done from an operating and cash flow and planning standpoint to try to make some sort of a shift in the direction that we're going. Like, has that work started? Is it been thoroughly vetted, or is it something that's work in progress? I'm just trying to kind of figure out like where the commissioners are landing. Like, is this our future and everything else operationally is done, or is there more work to be done there?
And to add to that, I also, the the detail of the budget is part of this too, but it's also a policy. So at the commission level, what do we need to be thinking about? And I would say not this time next year, right? Like
Mhm.
now, what do
Right,
we need to
that's
be
why I
thinking about now? So that we can give clear policy direction. So we're
Right.
not going through and trying to find 100 here and 100 there, right? We're giving clarity on what our expectation is.
So I say one thing is we need to look at rates. And we need to look at rates from the perspective of, so if you look at our rates, most of what we recover is in the water charge, not in the fixed charge. So that's very variable. So, I mean, you think about, if you go back and I don't know, if you look in the budget and you look in the financial project and the financials, the very end of that shows water sales. And you can see water sales has a big yo-yo. So it's unpredictable and it's all weather driven. And so how do we, how do we increase, if we want to do something, how do we increase water sales? That would be one thing to think about. That's one potential
Yeah.
thing. Our staff wise, if you look at our FTEs, it's pretty flat. We're not adding staff. Insurance costs have increased by almost $70,000. And chemicals at the treatment plant have increased by $40,000. So are there other things that we can look at, as far as biggest thing we have is how do we sell water?
But so what is, I mean,
Because that's revenue.
how do you sell water? I mean, is it, how do you sell water or what do water sales look like?
No, so how do we, can we
Generate more income.
Yeah, how do we generate more income?
I understand, but I mean, one way to generate more income with water sales is we have a really hot season and then we get it,
And then
we get a
had that.
windfall.
Right.
But what other thoughts are there? You like when we're talking about selling water to another city
That's
or?
a possibility.
Well, and to me, that's the right question to ask.
Yeah.
How do you stabilize the equation so that you understand the vulnerability, right? The flexibility of weather.
Yeah.
But how do we create a more stable revenue that can somehow, I mean, it's still an equation, right? You still have to figure that out.
The option is, do you put more of your emphasis on the fixed charge and less on the volumetric so that you have more stability in your revenues?
So I think you're asking all the right questions, and I think we as a commission need to commit to rolling up our sleeves and figuring out what we can do around this. I mean, I think have the work session for this budget, but build it into our agenda that we're looking at different components and different potential revenue and potential options. And I don't want to get to the point where it's impacting the ability for this organization to think about the future, right? I mean, if we're trying to fill this, but I think that's the right place for the commission to lean in and commit to, over the next 12 months, add that. I think that's just my thought. The kinds of questions you're asking we need to figure those out.
Well, I mean, I think we have a responsibility to also sort of make, get things even, like we don't, we need to not be, we have to do something, we're on a bad track.
Yeah.
We need to change that. We need to find out how we got on that. And I mean, we need to have some more insight on how we got on that. And then we have to put some more safeguards in place to make sure we don't so that far, off because, and I think like the fact that we had that really warm time in 21, 22, right? I mean, if it was an anomaly and it was $500,000 in sales that we normally don't see, then, maybe that should have not gone into the budget as just general revenue. It should have, so then that way it wouldn't have accidentally been, but forecasted out, right?
Right.
Or maybe maybe you look back along, a ways, 10 or 20 years and you find an average and I don't know, which I guess you probably do use an average for what the water revenue is, but an average as affected by weather, I guess, and climate change is here, so maybe we're, on a good path for having a lot of hot summers, and I don't think that's what we should count on for, for getting revenue.
Well, and hold that with conservation efforts in the same
Right.
hand, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
One
So-
thing that kind of muddied the weather event was it was also kind of not too long after we started into COVID. And so there was this fact, like we were kind of questioning, oh, was this a COVID thing? Was this it was very difficult to see it. Yeah, I mean, we just didn't know what was, everybody's home, like, does that mean people are using more water? There was just a lot of questions that we had, so we kind of saw it. But we didn't really recognize what it was until, we got 2 years later, and then it's really jumps out and you see it. Yeah.
So John, the rate increase, where will it put us? Will it put us even going forward? Or will you still be in the hole?
We'll still be in the hole for another year.
So I've been looking at the financial statement, trying to find on our balance sheet where the timber value is listed. Is it even in our balance sheet? We've got plant and stuff, but I don't see.
Yeah, the timber. I mean, it's in our budget document in terms of our sales.
Correct, but I don't think anywhere we recognize the actual
Yeah.
millions and millions of dollars.
So
So I think that's always been,
it would be in.
it's always been our piggy bank. And when timber prices have been high, unexpectedly high, we have done excess cutting. And I think short of having a catastrophic rate increase, we need to look at maybe backfilling some of these losses, maybe some 2 years worth of doubling the timber sales. I mean,
That would be another thing to do as well.
we honestly have the merch there. I mean, it is, we know, I mean, we haven't done an evaluation in probably 15 years.
I think he updates the crews, I think, doesn't he?
Bruce or Brian does.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because he does that yearly, because he shows how many, what age you've got acres of age and.
So I think we could certainly use that timber for capital improvements.
which lets the cash then
To
stay back
fill in
and-
capital stuff. But I would be opposed to using it for, you and I spent a lot of.
No, I just asking, where are we at? If we're not square, how do we get square?
And the idea, I think, is put a finer point on it. We are cutting. Sustained yield isn't an exact number every year. And so we are cutting something approximating sustained yield. But I think we can cut more something a year and still be on a sustained yield path. Yeah.
So the things that I hear coming up that would be pertinent for the upcoming work session, beyond diving into the budget that's in front of us, would be a greater understanding of options around how rates are set, whether that's not just the volumetric rate, but the flat rate. Understanding the impact of timber sales and options around increasing timber sales. And the third one that is the sales of water outside city sales or outside current service level sales, and what type of impacts. Are there other things the commission would be interested in discussing at this work session?
Yeah, Remy, Kath and I looked at this together, and I found that having another person there looking at it with me made it much more effective than twice one person, for me and you once. And so I think that we should have either a budget subcommittee or it could be the whole commission has a workshop meeting. So either a budget subcommittee with probably rotating, have one person be there as chair for a few years, and then have the others rotate through so that you got a bunch of different perspectives. And we do that every year when the budget comes out. I think you will get a much better job from the commitment by doing that.
And so that would be the suggestion is that there would be set basically and I know I'm repeating back exactly what you said, but that's the intent right now. There'd be a subcommittee of the Water and Light Commission that essentially would be a budget committee that would work not only together, but stay in touch with Mark throughout the year to kind of bring things back to commission that might need policy level discussion. Is that the intent?
That's a good.
It is, but is that the intent, is to kind of bring back information to the commission, or to bring back, I guess I hear you on I'm the working together part. I guess my question is more around what's the intent of the subcommittee?
Well, it was narrower. I was just thinking of the budget review, and I was frankly thinking that the subcommittee would only report back to the commission after the other commissioners had made their input and made their comments and asked their questions. I don't want it to make other commissioners feel like, well, they looked at this harder than I have, so I shouldn't say anything. And then the subcommittee would report to the commission discussions we'd had with Mark, what happened with that and that sort of thing. But I like your idea too, that there'd be some kind of a budget subcommittee that Mark would approach before we get these budgets.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just feel like the issue with the budget and the conversations that we have should happen at the commission level. And my concern about a more small body and having a even smaller subset working with Mark and doing that, it feels duplicative to me, but I could be wrong.
That's fine, because that wasn't my original idea. My original idea was just, we review this like we all do now. But
I hear it almost more like an audit committee. And that's what I'm hearing you propose more is a one-time, is part of the commission goes through, but collaboratively.
An in-depth
dive. I think my question is still, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just asking still kind of what's the, well, I guess it's just that it's it's essentially to audit the budget, but not as an individual. Audit in the sense of review.
It does feel odd that this document is so extensive. I mean, it's so much, it's so extensive and, bless you. And, I mean, I used to have an extensive budget, but I looked at it every single day, right? And now I'm just looking at this for, getting it and having a really short window to review it. And this is the document. I mean, these are the numbers that are going to, set rates, and we're responsible for setting rates. It feels like, compared to all the work we do, that this doesn't get enough time. And, maybe the expectation is, as a commissioner, you just give it the correct time and you just do it. But it was helpful to me to talk about it, right? I mean, it was helpful to have somebody to collaborate with. Certainly
this year there was a lot of changes between the draft and the proposed budget. Normally we don't have this level of changes, so you get the draft budget. It's kind of it's like this is a short window before we discuss, but typically there's not necessarily a lot of changes that come up, and there's time in between the draft and when we propose. They're fairly similar, so you don't necessarily maybe come back feeling like you're looking at a whole new budget. And today I think it was a little different. It's a different budget than it was.
So we kind of have a second agenda item on our work session next week, which is we're going to look at these potential, or these different levers that are impacting the budget that the commission would like more information on. Or to discuss in terms of potential policy direction. And then the second agenda item would be the potential formation of either an audit committee or another lever that's in that same vein, where commissioners are getting a deeper dive into the budget in a collaborative way.
And I think there's a third one too, then, which is the possibility of changing the budget that we adopt tonight.
We I think what we discussed was that even though we're noticing it as a special meeting, in case we take action, the intent
Right.
will not be to take action.
You're right, we would discuss changing the possible budget. You're correct on that.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I see that as a flow out of the first
Okay,
agenda item, but you're right, it'd be good to, it would be to understand those levers and then apply them to the
Yes.
budget at hand.
Right.
And then afterwards discuss a potential subcommittee or process for this collaborative scope into the budget.
yes.
For future budgets, okay.
I feel like one other area that, we should always be discussing, because of how much of the budget it is to talk about personnel costs. And I think it's really hard to look at that in this organization because it's certainly not overstaffed and people have really important skills and a lot of them require certifications. They're not easy to just replace people. We keep people forever. I kept people forever in my organization and I never wanted them to leave. But it does one of the things that comes out of that is that you just keep paying people because you never want them to leave. And at some point, are your salaries and are your budgets and your personnel budgets sort of out of whack for what the industry is? And
So the answer I would say is no,
okay,
because I look at that every year
okay,
to make sure that we're not.
yeah.
We're not overpaying, but we're also not underpaying because,
Well, you don't want to lose anybody.
right, if
Yeah,
we're underpaying,
totally.
yeah, and so I want to make sure we're kind of staying right there with the industry because
So that, what I'm hearing is that would be also useful information to come back in the work session of just understanding where our personnel costs are in line with other utilities.
And what our personal costs are. I mean, I can do the calculations here, but what is our personal cost for, what percentage of that is that of our expenses? Because unfortunately, companies get in that situation all the time where, if they want to make immediate change or they need to make something significant happen, a lot of times they have to look at personal expenses. And obviously, we don't want to do that here. I never wanted to do that in my business, but I also spent a lot of time trying to be creative and figure out like how I could keep revenue down by, what else could I do, right? What other things could I do for employee, for personnel to make it be a place that they always wanted to stay, but maybe I'm not paying the top, right? And I just want to have, I just feel like as the commission and looking at rate setting and how that affects the people that we have, our customers, we also want to, make sure we're looking at our customers in-house, right? Or people that we take care of in-house and how does that affect everything?
so you know what our number one cost is?
Bonneville Power, yeah,
And you know what the dollar percentage is?
it's big.
What's that? 60? 60, I think it's 63.
Well, we'll just negotiate a better rate for Monroe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we're
that's-
working on that treaty.
So you take, you take that one piece, and you take that out, and all of a sudden, now look at, our pie just got very small,
Right.
and that's,
Yeah, and
That's the
I don't
struggle.
mean to insinuate, I think everything's doing great. I think that people are great and I understand everything you want to do. It just is a big expense and if we keep everybody and we grow to 80 people, we have to just think about what that looks like.
We're dealing with some strange times, costs that,
we're gonna have that
Unpredictable.
conversation in a little bit later.
I
On
mean,
another one.
and it's not gonna change.
No,
We're in a merry-go-round right now.
this is the problem, is that in some areas, we are the tail trying to wag the whole dog. Because we don't have any control over those costs, because people have the option to go somewhere else whenever they want. And they can make double what they make here. So what's the incentive for staying?
Hmm,
That's the problem that we face, and we'll have that conversation a little bit later.
okay.
So.
Any other questions or comments around our proposed authorization of expenditures?
this time.
I would maybe just share one thing. If you look on page 34 in the water budget, at the bottom of that page is the net income. So we've talked a lot about the operating loss, which is middle of the page. That's the $567,000 operating loss. At the bottom of the page, net income is just it's just over 2.9 million. 1.9 of that is timber revenue. The rest, though, is coming from other sources in non-operating income. And if you look at the interest is much higher than it's been.
Yeah.
So our interest actually, covers that whole operating loss. Not that we want it to do that, but it's just something, I guess, to note. It's something that we noted. We're also actively working to generate as much interest as we can as we look at our investment policy. We recently did another $4 million investment of US Treasury. So we've got 8 million now invested there, and it's generating a little over a percentage point higher than we can get in the LGIP. So we're working to try to maximize that. So,
but going back to your point is how can we generate more revenue with what we have?
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
But I guess
really the bottom line.
my thought was, even when you look at the non-operating income, and we don't want to look at timber revenue as a source of a temporary fix for this gap in operating, with the operating results, operating loss. Well, we actually aren't, because we've got that high of net income, and it's not, we're not touching the timber revenue.
I'm glad we
Part
did
of
that, but wouldn't we rather have
Mhm.
no inflation and zero interest?
Yeah,
Yes.
And that money really needs to go toward
capital.
the capital
Yeah.
costs, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
needs to go for filling those holes.
That's right.
And that's the problem that I don't think, we really haven't talked much about yet, but if you look at what's going on with inflation, I don't know how we're gonna pay for the things down the road. And it's not gonna be this commission's, it's gonna be 20 years from now. Because I just don't, I mean, the numbers are so big. That's the only option you have, and
It has its own problems.
yeah, it's gonna create other problems, because then you're stuck with bond covenants and coverage ratios, and you kind of lose the ability to set the rates where you want them at that point.
We also, I mean, but some of that needs to be driven by time too.
And that's
you know,
why
so if
phasing
you
things
can't-
and spreading them out.
But I mean, some things we need to think, is it really the wisest thing to spread it out, go back to
Right.
emergency preparedness and, the additional water source. It's like, how long do you just keep not doing that because it's so much money and there's,
Or trying to do something a little bit every year, because when you get to that point, you need to do something, the number won't be so
yeah.
big.
Right.
And that's the other strategy we should be looking at is, can we do something every year until we get to that point where that number is not,
Yeah,
it's not, enormous.
yeah. And now you're thinking about that.
Yeah, I'm always thinking about that one.
Okay.
Okay. So I am going to ask for a motion to approve the 23-24 McMinnville Water and Light authorization of expenditures without changes.
So I would like to have that be changed, to make the one change that we talked to John about taking 100,000, correcting the number on that revenue, and then putting it offset in the expense side, so that our rate analyst would know that. So I would move that we approve as submitted with that change.
Are you clear on that change?
Trina, are you clear on that change? You
Mark,
understand?
are you clear on that change?
Yeah, I got it.
You got it? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, Trina.
Okay, I have a motion from Chair Tankersley.
I'll second.
I have a second from Commissioner Tate. All those,
So just to be clear, so on this expense that we want to add, I guess maybe I would. So are we open if it's a capital or if it's a non-operating or if it's an operating expense?
Yeah, I don't think that's the issue is we want to make sure if we have the revenue, we show the revenue. And then that way we know it's there specifically for that, similar to what we do with the underground fund.
Yeah, so that would be the easiest way to do it, I think, the most clear. Yeah, we can do it that way.
As long as we don't just lose the income.
Right.
Right,
That makes sense.
yep, we can do that.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll now welcome up the very patient Jamie Phillips, our Power Resource Manager, to perhaps present on revision 7 and revision 11 at the same time, if you like. Excellent.
Dan's probably got 3 feet of documents that go with this. You don't?
Oh, yes.
Wow.
3 feet.
Maybe this isn't on the test.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Yes, and for efficiency's sake, I will offer that the next 2 agenda items are very closely related, both being exhibit revisions related to metering updates at our Baker Creek and Windashar substations that BPA has performed in the last several months. The first item is revision 7 to exhibit E of our power contract number 09PB13070. I believe Sam has a resolution. Any
And if the commission's
discussion?
prepared to move on this, I'll go ahead and read it by title. Yes. Okay, this is resolution number 2023-6. Resolution authorizing and approving revision number 7 to exhibit E, the power sales agreement contract number 09PB13070 entered into between the city of McMinnville acting by through the SR Light Commission and the United States Department of Energy acting through the Bonneville Power Administration. That's 2023-6.
Would you like a
motion?
poll or yeah?
Motion and then the committee.
I would move, Madam Mayor.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gormley.
Okay.
I have a second from Commissioner Tate, and will our clerk please poll the commission?
Yes, Mayor Dropkin,
Aye.
Commissioner Tankersley,
Right?
Commissioner Gormley,
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Tate.
Aye.
So, Ms. Phillips, did you already address the second one? or-
No,
Okay, I got you.
I shall, if I may. I will also add that, just to be clear, these revisions don't make any changes related to the fundamental terms of the agreements, simply a housekeeping chore. So next is revision 11 to exhibit A, our network integration transmission agreement with Bonneville Power Administration, contract number 02TX10856.
So this is resolution number 2023-7, resolution authorizing approving revision number 11 to exhibit A, table 1 of the network integration transmission service agreement, contract number 02TX10856, entered into between the city of McMinnville acting by and through its Water and Light Commission and the United States Department of Energy acting by and through the Bonneville Power Administration.
I'd so move.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gormley
Second.
and a second from Commissioner Christensen. The clerk please poll the commission.
Yes, Mayor Dropkin,
Aye.
Commissioner Tankersley,
Right?
Commissioner Gormley,
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Tate.
Resolution is adopted unanimously. Thank you very much. And then if you will please stay here with us and talk to us about PURPA.
PURPA stands for Public Utility Regulatory Policy Act. And if the commission may recall, I was here last November to talk about 2 new standards that came out of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, amending PURPA to add provisions relating to demand response programs and electric vehicle charging programs for utilities. The standard required utilities like McMinnville Water and Light, to commence consideration on November 15th of 2022, which the commission did by opening a public hearing and subsequently continuing that hearing to today, in order to allow our consultant UFS to review these standards as they relate to our electric rates via the cost of service study. That study is ongoing, and we hope to have some conclusions there in the next few months. So I'm here to ask for the commission to continue the public hearing to September 19th, 2023, and publish public notice. At that time, we should have a recommendation on how to proceed with the two standards. And the deadline to make that decision is November 15th, 2023. So that should allow.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gormley and a second from Chair Tankersley. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay. I wasn't voting that way. I just finished my sentence. It's unanimously.
Thank you.
Comedic timing's never been my strong suit. Okay, wonderful. And we'll now welcome Chad Hudson, Purchasing Manager, back to talk about sole source procurement.
Yes, thank you. Yes, tonight we're seeking two actions. The first one is commission findings to recommend a sole source procurement for a remount of an Naltec AT37G boom and service body onto a Water and Light owned F550 chassis, which is currently sitting in the yard. Yay. For a total of $88,762.74, pending a notice of sole source procurement being posted, no protest being filed. Kind of what earlier when I spoke about some of the pricing increases. Obviously, we have a one person bucket on order right now, and we're hoping 4 years out. So we tried to kind of navigate our way through this and try to find out other avenues where we can get a chassis that's going to meet our needs, it's going to update our fleet. And this is one way we can do it, would to be take an existing boom and service body off an existing truck, take it to Alltech to manufacture. They're going to remount, they're going to take it, tear it all apart, put everything new under the turret, under where the rotation is, and put everything new. They're going to put the brains, the module, the PDM, that basically is the control box for all of the boom functions and communicates to the chassis. It's going to be new. So we figured it was a good option. Recertified the boom, stability test it, dielectric test it, which can be done at another service center. Hence the reason we're here for a sole source. It's really, there's not a whole lot of people that like service shops that do it, but you want to make sure that you're, we can't take it to another manufacturer to certify a different manufacturer's boom. So that's why we're here tonight.
Did they give you a window of, if you said yay tomorrow, are they 6 months out doing this, or can they get us in right away?
So we would be probably end of July as of today, and it'll take them 4 to 6 weeks to complete.
Okay.
So we should have it September, October at the latest, probably.
Good idea.
And we can use the existing truck until they're ready to put it on the new chassis.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, any other commission discussion?
So there are some findings here. Make Sam happy, right?
Make Sam happy.
No, sorry. No, so on page 2 of this, or 413 of your novel that you're reading tonight, we have potential findings, and we're going to really focus on 279B 075 A and C, which is the efficient utilization of existing goods requires acquisitions of compatible goods and services. And D, the other findings that support the conclusions that support goods or services are available from only one source. And so we listed out 5 recommended findings for the commission. And basically what, the first one is that we own currently the AT37G right now. And we have a 550 that we own. Due to the long lead times, we're requesting that be refurbished and remounted on our new chassis. That the efficient utilization of Water and Light's existing boom requires parts and services from All-Tech certified technicians to remount on our chassis. Number 3, to maintain factory certifications, All-Tech Industries requires All-Tech certified technicians to mount the AT37G and service body to factory specs. 4, required All-Tech factory certifications are only available from All-Tech Industries. Last but not least, number 5, it is not practical to have an AT37G boom and service body remounted at a different service center where the required certifications cannot be met.
So moved.
Cool.
Any further commission discussion or questions?
So we'll understand the motion to include items 1 and 2 under the actions requested. And in addition, I think Chad's also right, adopting
The 5
recommendations
the 5.
together with the motion as indicated on number 1, and then also we can deal with the second motion to declare the surplus.
Pending approval of the sole procurement, it goes through. We would recommend to declare surplus at 620, which was once they take the service body and the boom off of that fleet asset, that we declare that surplus and sell it at the.
And that's not a Ford 550, the ones we were getting the common.
The one we're taking it off of, it is.
It is, but it's a 2011.
Yeah.
So it's time to get rid of it.
It is, it's a diesel. Yeah, we're getting to get rid of it.
We're having issues with the regen on the cooling because we, it idles so much and we use it.
Needs to be like a winery truck.
Or a city truck.
Or a city truck, yeah. Is there any additional conversation discussion? Okay, can we handle these both at once, or would you like them broken out?
Let's break them out.
Okay, so starting with the action requested for number 1, do you want to recap it, or you feel sufficiently entered into the record?
I think we've entered the record as
I'd
number
entertain
1.
a motion to approve action item number 1. Yes.
Yeah, I moved that subject to the findings that they want us to make.
Okay, perfect. I have a motion from Chair Tankersley and
Second.
a second from Commissioner Gormley. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, say nay. I will now entertain a motion for action item number 2. You
I
can,
so move.
okay.
I'm anxious over here.
A motion from Commissioner Christensen and second from Commissioner Tate. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the opposed say nay. Both recommendations have been approved unanimously by the commission. Thank you very much.
So Chad, is All-Tech a Canadian company?
But I'm aware.
Okay.
Are you thinking maybe of Terex?
I was thinking of a boom truck company.
That Terex makes booms.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're based out of St. Joseph, Missouri.
And then there's also VersaLift is another company that makes booms.
All-Tech is like the traditional unit utilities around the country, though. I know from my travels.
Yeah.
Do we have any general manager comments?
I have one. For those that are interested, Public Power Council has actually put together a tour for staff and elected officials of PPC members of Grand Coulee Dam.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And it is scheduled for September 20th, 2023. And I will need to know if there's interest before Wednesday, August 16th.
So you stay and go to a concert at George and
Right,
George?
there you go. It is September 20th, 2023.
Thank you. Any additional general manager comment?
And John, you said elected officials. You
Yeah,
sneak us in anyway.
Yes, you can come. So, and I think the other one is Trina, August 9th. Or
I'll do that if Trina doesn't. It's up to you.
Go ahead.
What's August 9th?
So August 9th, we are doing a large invitational for a watershed tour. So of course, all members of the commission are invited to take that tour. But in addition, we're sending out an invitation to our county commissioners, our state representatives, our senators, our congressional delegation, as well, our state senators,
our newly elected fire board, the mayors and city managers from surrounding cities, and emergency management, key players in emergency management from around the county as well, including, of course, the emergency manager, but the sheriff and et cetera. So August 9th is the date, and it should be a wonderful afternoon and great opportunity for connections, but also, of course, to share our resources with those around us.
So I think that's great. We have some protocols that we have got to follow. Because having a big group up there and somebody sneaks off in the woods on us.
I usually have that conversation
So-
up front.
Honestly, with that many people, you're gonna need to have portable restroom with you.
Well, we'll see how many we actually get.
Yeah.
Usually,
It's a set date, so
Yeah.
it's not, we can't bat it around the way we did earlier. So, when you've got.
Which is great, but I mean, we got
responders.
no different, make the loggers produce medical information and stuff. We got someone's got some communities or something. So.
what's that?
Is
Is
it
it the afternoon?
It starts 8 to 2. Is that correct, Trina?
Yes, 8 to 2.
It's a big all day event.
We'll cook hamburgers over a slush pile.
Not in August.
Suits options.
No, I'm not saying. that.
No swimming allowed.
No sweet.
I can't take people to Flying M. Remember years ago, we always took everybody to Flying M Ranch. That's right.
Wonderful. Any other commissioner comments?
This is a lot of information we dealt with tonight. Thank you, everybody. Great discussions we had, especially around the budget. That was good.
We're not done yet.
Not
Well,
quite done yet. Lastly, our financial highlights. I'm assuming everybody has reviewed since everybody did a good job reading our novella this evening. And but any questions or discussion? Okay, not hearing any, I will adjourn the meeting and ask our legal counsel to call us into executive session. And thank you, everybody, for staying with us tonight. I hope you take pizza home or eat pizza tomorrow for lunch.
Mark, Marcy, James will be part of our executive sessions, not all at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
And-
Thank you for staying with us.
Take a little break here.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Should I read in?
You want to break? We're gonna
I'll read us in, then we'll close.
read us in and then we'll close and take a 5-minute.
Okay, so this is executive sessions pursuant to RS 192-660 sub 27 to consider information records that are exempt from public disclosure under RS 192-345 sub 23. Providing information revealing security measures to protect information processing and an executive session pursuant to RS 192-662E to conduct deliberations with persons designated to negotiate real property transactions and executive session pursuant to RS 192-60 sub 2 sub D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. The commission will not be returning into an open session, so it will not be taking any actions on these items tonight. If we have any press in the meeting, they're warned that they cannot share any items discussed in the executive sessions with the public that are subject to the executive sessions. And with that, I will turn it back over to the mayor to adjourn the open meeting.